Test, test. I can see there's like a yellow frame around Gift, your square here, but I'm not hearing you for some reason. So often what we end up doing is just use the chat if sound isn't coming through. And then if you do have a good connection, of course, I would love to hear your voice. Oh, she's popping off. Okay. So we are, and hi everybody. Just because we're recording now, I'll say hi. And Faye, I know you'll catch up with this later. Our goal is to fully focus on responsive design today. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. And I've got this frame here. Let me just drag this. There we go. Okay, so you should all be able to see the About page now, and I'll be able to switch back and forth. Okay. If I go. There we go. Okay, so I've got our project open here in VS Code, and I've got the, all right, easy switch. What's up, Buki?
Hi, Mr. Jones.
Nice, you sound great. How are you? It's good to hear you.
Fine. Yeah, I noticed that the About page looks a lot larger on your screen compared to mine. Like it's more proportionate on my own screen, but on yours it looks bigger. And that Africa's blockchain center is way higher than I placed it, or the way it looks on mine, it's more lower down at the end. So I don't know what's creating the.
It might be the height. Yeah, it could. So, well, actually, look. So actually, this is really helpful, right? This is a good place to
Okay.
start. So there's a few ways to think about testing for responsive design, right? And
Okay.
I mean, if you're a big organization, you have somebody who is full-time dedicated to making sure that, your work looks good on every screen. What I
Okay.
notice when I just drag around quickly, right?
Yeah.
I notice that this space up here is not changing on my screen.
Oh,
And I
I can
notice that on
see.
the left side, it's not changing either, right?
Yeah.
See that? So I'm not
Yeah.
sure what's causing the difference. Now, when I drag this really big, that div
Mm-hmm.
goes with it. And yeah, the height is not changing, but the width is definitely, right? So that's one way to look at it. But
Okay. All
let's
right.
look at it a few other ways now. Oops, and can I just grab, there we go. Another thing that I don't do probably often enough is open up the developer tools and kind of look at the elements here, right? So what I see, if I mouse over this whole element, in green, we've got this bounding box for and obviously you put a border radius on it, right? Around the oval shape. And then there's this margin up at the top. And so I don't know if this is big enough on my screen, but do you see on this little box that appears? Sorry, and I can't move my mouse to show you. This box appears under this when I'm highlighting, and it says div, BG blue 400, MT20, et cetera, right? So those are all the classes. And then it tells us our chosen background color, right? We've got the pound sign 60A5F, blah, blah, blah. And then I see the margin says 80px first. And I think maybe that's the orange that we're seeing up above this. Now, when I change, and yeah, I can't see this by dragging around, right? Can I just click on this? Yeah, that's all right, but you get the point. So one thing we can think about is the bounding box for this thing. And then we've got this blue div that's floating on top of the green that fills up the whole screen. So a few things to play with. The other thing we can look at, of course, is when I press this device screen, right? This is showing me what this would look like on an iPhone 5. Oops, I can't make that bigger. And obviously we want to, there's plenty to fix there, right? So that's exactly why we want to talk about responsive design today. So one way, right, I'm looking at this on screen size. I notice it doesn't fill up the whole screen and the text is not in the div. This is completely normal for this stage of development. And then if I just, oh, sorry, hold on, boop. If I drag the corner of this window, I see the same thing, right? So let's watch the behavior as I drag this narrower and narrower. Actually, I like the behavior of this background image when I'm dragging. It's okay, right? It's always filling the screen, at least for the background image. How do these cards look on a smaller screen? The cards actually look really good, right? Those adapt really nicely. And nice job designing these cards. This is great. I want a little bit more, maybe margin underneath this last card and above this first card. And I wonder if on a larger screen, maybe we want to put these cards next to each other, 1, 2, 3. Whereas on a smaller screen, we'll keep them stacked in a column like this. This div right here. So the width of the div resizes nicely, and we'll want to play with the width of the text and the size of this image, so that's good. This cool little division bar you have here, this is great, and it looks like it resizes nicely. Yeah, that's great. You see the width of that. That's great. And actually the width of this text looks really nice too. I think on a narrow screen that looks fine. And it just fills up as we go. Okay. So yeah, I'm just scrolling through this page, and I want to reiterate that none of this is criticism, right? This is the same thing that happens to me whenever I'm building a site, is I build it for one screen and then I just go mess around and I see how it looks. And my stuff often looks way worse than this. So let's just fix everything one by one. Anything else, Juan, Buki, that you notice or questions you have about what I just went through there?
I just know that the shade, the blue shade, doesn't cover the text. So I guess this is going to be the first one. What would be the first one for you to address?
Which one? What you just said, the blue what?
The blue shade, the one that covers the oval, right?
This, yeah.
Yes.
Right, yeah, let's do that first, right? So, right, it's not, it doesn't contain the text, right? So we really have that shape. And then this button gets split in half. So that's what we'll work on first. All right, let's go find that shape. So pop into here. I'm going to leave this open in case we need it. And I'm going to grab about.js. And let's just find that blue shape first. It's got this heading in it. There's the paragraph that we see here. Good. the learn more button is here. And this, this is the div that's making the blue shape in the first place, right? It's rounded. That's how we got the rounded edges. It has a big top margin. That's why we see that constant space above it. That's great. It's got opacity 50, which is why we can see through it. And then when we hover, it gets darker. Good. It also looks like the opacity disappears when we hover. Padding inside, that's fine. Float left, we'll talk about that in just a minute. No margin on the left over here. So why are we seeing a margin there? We'll figure that out. Some padding on the top, and it's got a fixed height, right? So the fixed height, that's why it's not changing in size when I move the screen. Okay. I'm just going to organize these things a little bit. This is also completely normal to, right, when you're building something, we just kind of, we start throwing things together. But I'm just going to put things that are similar near each other. So padding and margin, I'm going to put those near each other. X-axis can go first, that's fine. Let's put our float left. Yeah, let's put all this stuff at the beginning now. This talks about the behavior, the width, and the height. Let's move the color and the opacity and the hover color. We'll move those to the end. Okay. And my other question, Buki, I'm looking through, and I know I saw that we have this about.module.css header, header, header. Where's that header class? Okay.
Mr. James.
Yeah.
That shape that I used for, I'm sorry, I'm using my phone, so there's a lag.
You're good. You're good. You're good.
Could you kindly go back to the local host? Yeah, could you scroll down? Yeah, that mission statements, that shape, that's what I use the about.module.css for.
Perfect.
This shape. It's
Yeah.
I just named it header. It's not really a header per se.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, good. So this is a great, right. So you used it in a very targeted way.
Exactly.
Just because there was this one particular thing you want to accomplish. Beautiful.
Yes, exactly.
Totally.
I didn't know how to accomplish it with Tailwind, so.
Yep, that makes perfect sense. That's great.
Okay.
Good.
I'll log out from my phone now in case you need to understand anything. I'll log back and
cool.
to
That's
save.
Perfect.
All right.
Good plan.
You can use the chat as well.
Oh yeah. Okay.
You know how much I love talking rather than chatting, though. You know. So, Buki, you got this. Yeah, just come and go as needed. Okay. So yeah, let's figure this thing out. I love that explanation of why we're using, right, the CSS to make some real magic happen. And the rest we can probably do with Tailwind. Okay, we're happy, I think, with the background image. That part's looking good. So I don't think we have to do anything there, right? And the reason I'm happy with it is because it resizes appropriately, right? On a small screen, maybe we lose the woman. So maybe there's something we can do to make sure we can still see her on a small screen. But I'm going to save that for another time. That's a more kind of picky detail that we'll get to. But this we've got to fix. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, let's get rid of float left for just a minute and see if we lose any functionality. We might not need that at all. All right. So by getting rid of that, I don't really see any change in behavior. So I'm okay with just getting rid of that. We might come back to it later. The width is responsive. When we use width 1/2, our elements are going to always be 1/2 of the width of whatever container they're inside of. And on this size screen, it looks really good to have this taking up half the width. But of course, on a narrow screen, that doesn't work. So this is the design principle. This is really all you need to know, okay? Just like we can use hover and a colon to give things a hovering behavior, we can use, and here, let me go to the Tailwind docs to show you this. We can use these 5 prefixes right here to adjust to window sizes: SM, MD, LG, XL, and 2XL. Now, first of all, what it means, you can see the numbers right here, right? So any screen that's at least 640 px, that's represented by the SM breakpoint, okay? So basically what that means is once I get below 768 and down to 640, that's what SM applies to. Anything even smaller than 640 is considered extra small, but notice that XS isn't even in this list. And here's why this happens. Okay, this is the most important thing to wrap your mind around, and it took me a little while to think about this. I'll write this as a comment. Basically, whatever I write first, let's say W full, is going to apply to everything starting from the smallest screen. Then if I type MD and then like width 1/2 like this, what this means, okay, this means that everything on a small screen up to size MD, right? Write the word out, is W full. Bigger than MD, sorry, at medium and above, it's W 1/2. I hope I'm writing this right. I hope this is clear, right? Basically, whatever I type here is the default. And because responsive design focuses on the smallest screen first, mobile phones first, this default applies starting at the smallest. And then we have these breakpoints that say, okay, once you're at least this big, make it width 1/2. And if I write medium right here, what I'm really saying is medium and up, okay? So if I write MD, that means MD, LG, XL, and 2XL. If I just want large and up, obviously I would just write large. So let's go try this. I'm gonna write, and just stop me if you have questions about that. I'm not sure if I did a good job explaining that. So let's see it in action. I'm gonna write width full and MD. Actually, let's just do width full first, okay? So if I only write that, then this div fills up the whole screen, right? It goes all the way across. It has some margins on the sides. Let's just go look at Dev Tools for a second. Let's get out of responsive view. So this thing has margin. Well, it has MT20. Oh, that's why, because it has this padding right here. Sorry. This P20 is why there's space on both sides of this div. Okay. And I could accomplish something similar by putting like margin in this object, but this just ensures that everything inside the div has some space around it. I'm just going to get rid of this P20 for just a moment and save. So you can see, there we go. Now this div goes all the way from edge to edge, right? And there's no padding at the top. So obviously, I think it looks better with P20. So let's bring that back. And now we're going to have some space around it again. Fine. All right. I don't want this to go all the way across the screen on a large screen, but at least on a smaller screen, that's looking a little bit better. So let's bring in this logic here. Width full on a small screen, but anytime you have something medium or larger, let's go half. Watch. So let me refresh this. Whoops, I forgot my W dash. W dash. There we go. Okay, so now width is a half. Watch what happens as I drag. Pop. Okay, it suddenly popped to being full screen there. Now, it seems like that moment where it changes width is happening too late. I'm thinking maybe at a medium screen, we might also want width to be full. So let me change this MD to large instead, right? All I'm doing here is I'm moving the breakpoint to figure out which size screen I want this behavior to happen on. All right, this time, watch what happens. Jumps to full. So you see how it jumps a little sooner now, okay? Now that I'm on a medium screen. And actually, so that's looking a little better. And then on the even smaller ones, I still have some work to do. But I'm happy enough with where the size of this thing is changing, right? I could even turn this into an XL, which would make the breakpoint happen even sooner, right? And that looks pretty good. I don't know. So you can decide if you want to use an LG or an XL right here. Okay, so I'm going to make this LG for now, and then we can come back and change it another time. Now, the other thing I notice is that actually on the smaller screen, maybe we don't want so much padding on the sides, right? Maybe we don't want all this space. So let's go back again. What if I only want this padding on large screens and up? Now I haven't said anything about padding on smaller screens, right? So if all I do is I slap the LG in front of that and I save this, look what happens now. No padding, right? And then as soon as my screen gets to a certain size, now the padding pops in. Maybe I want padding on medium though. So my width is going to change at the large breakpoint here, but my padding can change on medium here. Let's try that. Yeah, that looks pretty good. That's what I want. And when I get below a certain size, the padding disappears entirely. Well, I probably still want some top padding. I'm okay with the padding disappearing here, but maybe I still want MT, whoops, MT20 on any size screen. Did I save that? Oops, not MT, sorry, PT. Padding top, not margin top. Is that working? Oh, I confused it. Let's make this a PX so it doesn't conflict. So PT is a vertical padding. PX is a horizontal padding. Let's see if that works. So something's looking buggy here. You know, I'm not seeing the behavior I want. Oops, that's because I was scrolled up. Look at me, sorry. I'm doing all this work because I was scrolled up the page. All right, that looks okay. And maybe the padding top can be a little less. Yeah, scoot it up a little bit. That looks okay. Now, the other thing I see, you know what? The roundness of this doesn't really work for me personally on a smaller screen. Okay, maybe I want less of a border radius when I'm on smaller screens. So I can do that too, okay? And I know that you're going to go back to this later, so please feel free, Buki, of course, to override the decisions I'm making here. I'm just trying to show you a bunch of stuff, and then you can make final decisions about how to use it. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, rounded full. I like how that looks on a large screen, but maybe I have to go back to the documentation to remember what my options are for rounded border radius. So what can I say? I can say full like you did, or I could say MD, LG, XL. Let's just try LG on a smaller screen. Rounded LG. Okay, so big screen, still rounded full. Watch the radius change when I hit the medium breakpoint. Okay. I don't know if I like that, right? You can decide if you want to keep that breakpoint or not. But I do think at the very least, at the smallest size screen, that looks a bit better. Maybe I want different behavior at every breakpoint, right? Maybe I want rounded LG on the smallest size screen. Hey, Faye. Maybe I want M.
Hello.
Hey, what's up? We've been recording. Don't worry, so you'll be able to catch up, okay?
Okay, no
We're
problem.
just, we're
Though
digging.
I won't stay for long. I have an exam today.
Oh, okay. What are you studying right now?
I'm studying math and stats.
Yes. All right. You're my people. Good. Yeah. Don't stick around. Hey, if you got to go study or whatever, that's totally fine. Okay. You'll catch up with this.
Okay, no problem.
We're just digging deep into responsive design right here. And so the thing I want to show you right now is you can actually have different behavior at every breakpoint if you want to, right? So in this case, let me just show you. I'm going to do rounded large as our default. But on a medium screen, let's do a little bit more rounding. So again, what are my options here? XL, 2XL, 3XL. Let's do 3XL. See what that looks like on medium. And then finally, at large and above, it goes to rounded full. Save. Let's go back and watch, right? So we've got rounded full, still full, 3XL rounding, and then watch those corners really closely, less rounding here. I'm also realizing, say
Please
again?
come inside. Please come in. You mean all these things? Something like that.
I'm also realizing that maybe I want a little bit of margins on the smallest size screen or a little bit of padding, right? So let's do this. Medium and up, we have padding of 20. But what about smaller screens? I just do like PX5, just a little bit. There's a little bit of space. Okay. But I'm realizing I would rather have this. I'd rather have this center. Oh yeah, it's centered now. Good. Yeah. Okay. All right. It's rounded here, less rounded here, and even less rounded here. There's still a little bit of padding no matter which way I go. And then let's do PT5 to get a little consistency on that small screen. All right, getting better. But still, it doesn't hold everything on the smallest size screen. And the reason for that is this height 96 right here. So on a big screen, it's easy for us to say, look, I know how tall I want this div to be. But apparently on a small screen, it's not enough. So I have a few choices here. What would happen? Let's just try this. What if I only specify the size of this div on a larger screen? And I don't say anything about the height of it on smaller screens. What's that going to do? Dragging. Medium screen. That looks better. Small screen. Oh, that looks better too. So notice when I don't say anything about the height, the div will get big enough to hold what's inside of it, right? When I do say something about the height, the div listens to that. And I'm noticing it looks like this is a large breakpoint. I'm kind of at the smallest end of the large breakpoint right here. And it looks like the div is still not big enough, which makes me think maybe my breakpoint should be at XL and not large. Let's try that. So at anything XL and above, which once again, just to review, right? I'm going back and forth. We want to go back to responsive design. So anything that's at least 1280 pixels wide, right? We're going to say what the size of that div is. Anything smaller than 1280 pixels, we're not giving any opinion about it. So how's that going to look? Whoops. So far, so good. Good. Oh, it's still kind of sneaking out there. This is making me wonder, what if I just don't say the height at all? Let's just get rid of it. Maybe I don't need to say the height of this thing. All right. Now it's a circle, right? Because I had a big radius. Still a little funky. I like it how it looks here. I don't love that. I don't like that. That's okay. And that's okay, right? But I think I'm going to leave the rest to you here, Buki. Is that enough for you to play with? Nice. All right. Yeah, we made some progress. It's not perfect yet, right? But the most important thing here is that you can put these sizes on anything. So even text inside of a span. At what we do. Oh, nice. Yeah, let's do that next. I just want to show you really quick text, right? So what if we say that the text for Excel only applies to LG and above, and everything smaller than that is just 2XL. All right, let's try that. 4XL text. And now bang, it's smaller, right? Maybe that's only on, oops, where is that? Down here. Maybe it's only 4XL on XL screens. There we go. Now it's 4, right? 2XL, 4XL at that breakpoint. So you can play with font sizes. You could, I don't know why you would do this, but you could even change the color depending on the size of the screen, right? So I could say XL is text white, but on a small screen, maybe I want nice dark blue text or, you know, dark purple text or anything, right? So now when I make the screen size change, the font color changes too. Okay. Anything can be changed for responsive design. And this is another reason why I chose Tailwind to show you, is because it helps you just play really quickly with this idea of responsiveness. It's not the only tool that does this. It's probably not even the best one, but it is a nice tool for just really starting to understand responsive design. Okay. All right, so let's go down to the what we do section. Let's play with this next. What we do. So we're now going to look here. And we probably want to make cards, make components out of these, which we'll do that too. But let's just play with the spacing a little bit. So what I see is that we've got a big P20, big padding around everything here. Nice big text, that's fine. Oh, I'm going to change this to P20 just so we can see its behavior. So this is a lot of spacing. The first thing I'm going to do I'm going to make these numbers a little bit smaller across the board. Let's turn this into a 5. Let's turn this padding into a 5. And let's change that margin top into a 5. Just smaller numbers. All right, now we probably want more than that. But personally, I like this a little bit better when there's not quite so much space. Of course, if you do want that space, let's think about what we can do with it. All right. So I could be convinced that maybe this needs a PY that's pretty big. PY 20. That looks pretty good. But maybe I just don't need to say as much about this stuff here. And so now what we do, I like how what we do now feels like it's vertically centered here. And obviously I'm going to have to bring back some margin and padding to make this next div work, but we're getting there. I also, to my eyes, I don't love the rounding here on this div. It just feels a little distracting to me. I think this part of the page would look better if it just felt like this bar was going all the way across the page. So I'm going to change that. You can undo my change later, of course. You get to make final decisions. But I think if we get rid of rounded 3XL, personally, I think that looks better as just like a stripe going across the page. All right. So to me, these words look like they are well placed now. The strip goes across the page. So now we've got, look, we've got this full page image. When you start to scroll, you see this nice white band, and we could change the color of that if we want to. And then we see this blue band with the gradients, and we see the cards inside of it. I like it. Now, of course, we want some spacing around these cards. So let's fix that next, all right? So nice job using the gradient here. I think that's really classy. That looks good. And how much time do we have? I think we have just enough time to, here's what we're going to do. 3 things. Oops, I'm not inside a comment here, Bob. Let me do some multi-line comments here. So 1, let's make these cards components. Then let's make them responsive. And then finally, let's make their arrangement responsive, right? So I want to make the behavior of the card adapt to the size of the screen. Actually, that's already happening. Okay. The card itself is responsive. On a big screen, it's a strip with the picture at the side and the text to its right. On a smaller screen, the picture goes to the top. So these cards themselves are already nice and responsive. That's fabulous. So that part's done. And I think we're just going to want to make their arrangement responsive. I would like to see a row of cards. Actually, you know what? Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Personally, I think that the card maybe should always be like this. And on a big screen, it should be like card, card, card in a row. What do you think about that? It's almost like I want to get rid of the responsiveness of the card itself, but just change the responsiveness of how they're arranged. And you can see the responsive behavior we've got here. right? Flex, it only becomes flex on a medium screen and above. So actually, if I just get rid of that part, watch this, okay? All I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get rid of this MD flex shrink and this MD flex. And I think that should be enough. Not quite. Now I want that image to fill it up. Okay, the image fills it up, but it stretches a little bit. Switch to object contain. The image doesn't stretch. Yeah. I do like cover. Yeah, because that looks good. That's a little stretched, but we can do that by constraining the size. So I really like the width of this card here. So on the smaller screen, where is that width coming from? Max width MD. Ah, here. And on a bigger screen, it says max width 2XL. Let's get rid of that behavior as well. So I didn't change anything on the small screen. Yeah, I like how that looks, honestly. I think that card looks pretty cool. And I don't think it needs to change, even though it's very cool. Yeah, I like the responsiveness of these cards, so keep that in mind. But it feels to me like for this work right here, we might just want 3 of these lined up. And you can always go back. Here's what I'm going to do. All right, we are going to, let's see how quickly we can do this. We're going to make another component. We have this cards file here already. These are, let's call these about cards. Okay. So let's make a new export function about card. Of course, it has children. And the inside of that card, we need this part. It actually looks like line 54. This div is unnecessary. Yeah. So we've still got, there's of course there's still plenty of styling inside the card, but at the very least, we can grab this so we don't have to edit it in every other place. We can make that just the outer container of the div that's returned over here. Okay, so just that line. I'm going to save this for now. I'm going to import, I need curly brackets to use this, about card from components cards. And then I can go here and change this to about card, and same thing here. And then I'm also going to replace, I'm going to get rid of line 67 and 81 and the end of that div and that div that I just deleted. And then I'm going to replace this line here, about card. Oops. And same. Again. Same. All right. And then I also got rid of this flex shrink thing. I'm going to leave some empty quotes on all three of these just in case I go back and change them later. I want to add something back. Let's just fix the tabbing. So we abstracted a little bit of that about card into a separate component, but obviously there's still a bunch of styling going on inside. That's okay. Image, we don't want the width to change responsively. And as for the inside, we didn't change anything with the text yet. Save. Okay, these cards are now not responsive, and we've abstracted them away. What I would like to see finally, okay, so we just did, let's make these cards components. We did that. Let's just really quickly make their arrangement responsive to finish up today. Now, the div enclosing these cards is here. Ends on line 79, and it starts on line 45, and there's these three cards inside. Okay. There's a few ways to do this, and always when you're talking about layouts, you can talk about flex or grids. Okay. I'm gonna do, let's keep it simple. Let's just do flex for now. You can play with a grid later, but watch this. Inside of this div, this colored background that you already have going right here, let's just add the word flex at the start. And let's switch to flex row, because I want these things to appear in a row. Flex, flex row, save. And now on a big screen, I should see, yeah, there they are, just lined up across. I think that looks pretty good. Of course, you can always, thanks for being open-minded, Buki. You can go back and undo these things, right? But this is, I think that looks pretty good. Of course, we want a little bit of padding at the top. So there's all this extra space at the bottom of these things. Where is that coming from? It's not coming from the height of the div. It's coming from here. MB margin bottom is 20 for each of these cards. Let's get rid of that too, just so you can see, right? No margins around them. So now the whole thing collapses around them. And I could put margins around each of these. We've got MX auto, that's fine. But what if instead of using MB in here in the card, what if I control this from here just by putting a PY, right? Top and bottom of 5. Let's look at 5. That looks okay. I think I liked it with a little bit more than that. Maybe PY 10. A little bit more. Or we could go back up to 20. All right. That looks okay. I like how the amount of extra space over here and on the left side matches or is a little closer to the top and bottom. There's still maybe a little too much space in between these for my taste, but we can mess around with that another time. The last thing I want to show you today is now I really broke the responsiveness, because now look what happens when I smush these together. Obviously, that's not acceptable, right? It looks good here, but then doesn't look good here anymore. Luckily, this is an easy fix. All I have to do is say, yeah, on large screens, I want flex row, but anything smaller, I want these things to be arranged in a column. Flex, flex col, LG, flex row. So it's a row. And when it gets to a certain break point, it turns into a column. Well, that break point looks like it happened. Oh, go ahead.
Mr. James.
Yeah.
So I have to go now. It's time for my exam.
Okay. Hey, good luck on it. And I'll talk to you on Friday.
Okay, thank you.
We'll catch up. Talk to you soon. All right. The last thing, this break point happens too late, right? These things are already looking bad. So maybe large can be changed into XL. Let's see. Okay. Good, good. Not good. All right. Now, this is where maybe we do want to go back to that responsive design. This looks good. That doesn't look good. And now I've got, it's almost like I kind of want these to be wider here, right? So there's actually more to fix now. At the very least, let's say that this PY really only applies to those XLs. And I actually want the cards to have a margin, to have an MY of at least something on the smaller screens, but then on the larger screens, they don't need it, right? So watch this. Okay. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying, look, give it a Y margin, give these cards a margin on small screens, but get rid of that margin on larger screens. Good. Not so good. Not good at all. Oops, where's those margins that I just put around those cards? Oh, medium, it pops in. I actually, you see that margin I just added shows up, but it shows up on, oh, I only want XL maybe, for the margin to disappear. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so now when it switches to column, we have some space in between. When we're in a row, we don't. Maybe I do want a little bit more MX after all. Instead of auto, what if I just make that a consistent 5? Now at least there's always going to be space in between them. But now they're not centered anymore. And that's an easy fix as well. I don't want to put MX auto around each individual card. I actually want it around the set of cards. Okay, and so let's look at the container. This is the last thing I'm doing. I know we're over time. Let's just look at what container is holding these. All right. You see, so the container goes all the way across the page, and we want these three divs centered inside of it. Okay. Let's go back to the docs for a second, and we want not align, we want justify items. We want these items to be centered inside of here. Okay, so let me see if I write justify items center inside of here. Justify items. That should ensure that the objects, oh, that didn't work. Oh, this is grid items. Hold on. Flex. Oh, okay. I want to deal with flex and grid items, not just grid items. Let's try justify center, not justify items. Let's try that. All right. So I'm always going back in between the documentation. Come on. And that's what we were looking for. Now these items are centered inside the div. Sorry, my screen is big. That's why it looks like that. Okay, so here's the full width of the screen. Those are centered inside. They keep their margins. Their size changes. And then, yeah, we still want those to center there. So let's look at Dev Tools one more time. I want these to be centered in here. So maybe this is where I say, look, okay, the cards should have MX auto, so they center within their div. However, once we get to the large breakpoint, we're going to change from MX auto to MX5. MX auto, they're centered on the small screen. Oh. That's on large. Oh, sorry, I keep forgetting that I'm using Excel. Let's try that. Yeah, there we go. They're centered there and there. All right, that looks pretty good. The one thing I would say is on this width of screen, maybe these cards can be a little bit wider, right? I like the width here. I like the width here. In between, that's a little bit weird how the cards are different sizes. And this feels a little funky to me that maybe they could be wider. But those are all things that you can mess around with. Okay. All right. So still have to play with this next box. So go ahead and play with it. You've got like a couple days until we meet again to see if you can get this vision box behaving a little better, right? I noticed that, right? This text doesn't work. The picture is too small. And then it looks like the text just disappears on a narrow screen. That's a perfect challenge. That's a great spot to be for right now. So Buki, how do you feel about just taking what we did so far today and you just keep going with it and then bring your questions on Friday. Okay. Good. Hey, thanks. I know I talked a lot. I hope that was helpful. I was trying to talk out loud about the way I think about it as I'm working through. Of course, bring those questions. Okay, let me know what questions come up in between, and we'll pick up right here on Friday.
Thank you, James. Wonderful class.
Thanks,
I'm
Juan.
picking up stuff.
Yeah, responsive
Yes.
design. Yes.
Awesome.
All right, my friend. I'll see
Perfect.
you soon.
We'll talk. Thanks, Al.
Hey,
Thanks a lot.
thanks for checking it out. Yeah. And let me know. I'm so excited to hear your questions as you play around with this. Okay. Okay. I'll see you Friday. Take care.